On to our next topic, which is, as I said, society and the bad influence of the media and excessive criticism and bullying, and then trauma.
Okay,
So please, you can talk about that.
sure. So maybe what I'll start with is excessive criticism. So with excessive criticism, and again, this can come from parents, it can come from influential people, it can come from peers, right? And then, of course, leading into social media, because now we live in this world where we're also interconnected, right? You just kind of hop on your computer or on your phone, and there's all these, we're exposed to all these communities that, I would argue like 10 years ago, we weren't. And with that, obviously there's benefits, but there's also a lot of pitfalls, right? And again, you're exposed to all kinds of different people who have, maybe not the best of intentions when it comes to us. So excessive criticism is exactly that. Like, I mean, I don't think there's anything really too complicated about that. And again, it can be so detrimental. It can lead to obviously, as we're talking about, the lack of self-esteem and self-worth. Oftentimes people who are experiencing excessive criticism will isolate. They won't feel like they're supported, they're invalidated. It can lead to difficulties in interpersonal relationships. So relationships that we have with our siblings, with our parents, with other family members, going on, with our spouses, work, difficulties in making decisions. So when we lack that confidence, we oftentimes will be indecisive, unable to make decisions, not have confidence in what we think is the best for us. We'll defer oftentimes to other people. It'll affect our communication style. So oftentimes people who experience excessive criticism will have very passive communication styles. Another symptom or thing that we see is over explanation and over apologizing. So people often feel like they have to keep explaining why they've done something or why they think something, or just in general. If and when they actually even raise their voice and speak up, they'll feel like they have to over explain, over apologizing, right? So constantly kind of apologizing for things that they really don't even need to apologize. I had this one client who just every second word was "I'm sorry," even just like it was like sitting down on the couch, "I'm sorry," right? Like constantly that that you're in the wrong and that you have to make amends, or you have to do that. And so those are all things that we see when people have been exposed to excessive criticism. Because, and it makes sense, right? If you're not, number one, if you're not given a voice, and then when you do have a voice, you're criticized or made, to feel bad about it, or that it's not worthy. The other thing that I often see is that those are invalidating environments. So we don't feel validated, we don't feel appreciated or respected. And oftentimes those individuals will then seek out validation in other areas and other relationships, and they are not always the healthiest, right? So we can see that then people will maybe find themselves in really, dangerous situations and dangerous relationships, abusive relationships, where they're being taken advantage, because it can lead to a lot of vulnerability, right? It can lead to a lot of emotional vulnerability, and we don't make the best choices in those situations. So that's kind of, when we look at excessive criticism and being exposed to that. And again, the biggest thing is we have to recognize that that's what's happening, right? Like, we may all have that one relative. I know I did. I was kind of bless her, who was very critical, right? So no matter what, and it wasn't, it wasn't directed at any one person. It was just in general. That was kind of their personality, was that they just were very critical. And so sometimes when it's one person, you just kind of like, okay, that's that person, and you can set up boundaries. You can kind of deal with that. But you have to recognize that it's not healthy. Again, that's the first step, right? And that's very difficult for a child. It's very difficult for a child to recognize that that's not healthy. So that's why it's so important that when we are raising children, when we're working with vulnerable members of society, that's part of that psychoeducational piece, is that we are teaching them, right, that these things aren't okay, and this is how we cope, and this is how we deal with it. So that's, yeah. Any comments on that? Anything? I'd love to hear from more people, like what they think of, and their comments and their experiences as well.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a question. It is actually a special case. There is a child. He's 16 now, and he had autism. he still has
Mhm.
autism.
Yeah.
Now he is the product of a broken family where the parents they were not living together, and the mother could not pay attention towards his needs in terms of like educating him or giving him those basic hardcore skills
Hmm.
when he needed them, when he
Hmm.
was uh, developing.
Yeah.
So now he found his refuge into the animations, and you know there are some cartoon characters what he likes, and there are some pictures what he watches all the time. So can you say like he has uh, arbitrated his self-esteem through those characters? And number one. Number two, if that is the case, how it can be broken in the long run? Is there a therapy which can help him? Or are there any psychedelics experiences he may go through to actually get his brain chemistry reset, and then you can install the new self-esteem or new programs on him? Or it is done like he cannot actually grow, and whatever his arbitrary sense of self-esteem is, you have to actually build around it and correlate whatever wherever he's deriving all that source of recognition or power through those animations or through those characters, and he likes to like wear the clothes like that. So do you have to just break that cycle and tell him no, that is not real, or you have to just kind of relate it um, to the reality
Yeah.
somehow?
Yeah, no, that's a really, I mean, that's a really complex case. It's kind of hard, obviously not knowing all the background and everything like that. So, everything that I say will be just kind of more general. I
Okay.
think that, like I think first and foremost, what we have, again, I think the reason why we're in the field that we're in, what we do, and again, as Muslims, is we know that we believe in the ability to change, right? And we believe that otherwise we wouldn't be doing what we do, right? We wouldn't be in this field if we didn't believe that people didn't have the
Yeah.
capacity to change. So I always begin with that I think that there's no such thing as a dead end, that there's no such thing as that this is it, right? That there's always capacity to change. It might not be a 180 change, right? Maybe it's just a 10% change or a 15% change. But it is always possible, again, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. I think that in a case like this, again, I think you said 16 is the age of the child, or the adolescent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think with that age, and if the client has been diagnosed with autism, of course, is, when we're changing our understanding of autism now, we see it more as a spectrum. We see that, that there's varying degrees and symptoms that people will have to meet that clinical threshold. It's really I use this term lightly, but impairment, but it's an impairment of our socialization, right? And connecting with people in relationships and interpersonal relationships, which again, very much tied to self-esteem. And just like you said, sounds like for various reasons, the home environment was not one where his needs were being met, right? For I'm sure lots of different reasons. And so he's kind of gravitated towards these fictional characters where he feels that he kind of connects and is now trying to emulate them. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I would look at is, first of all, what is the detriment, right? So by doing this, by emulating some of these characters, what is the cost of that, right? And and obviously I don't know. That's why I'm asking, like, if there's a significant cost, is it maladaptive? Is it affecting his life negatively?
I mean,
And
the thing is, once like at the age when he needs the heroism, he has found those heroes, right?
yeah, yeah,
So later on in life, there is a lot of bad content, you know,
yeah, yeah,
where the same characters have been just, portrayed as bad, negative, like murdering or killing. So if he comes across those kind of images, then he may just, be prone to catch up that
yeah.
negative.
I understand. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know, I see where you're going. So I think probably a more gentle approach with a client like this, to kind of pull them again. There's from a very basic perspective, right? like you said, he's looking, he's looking for attachment. He's looking for that heroism, I think is the word that you used. And this is kind of what he found. Eventually, yeah, I think we would want to kind of move him away from that, right? And more into reality, more into actual real relationships that he can have in his life, right? But I think it would be a gentle and slow process to do that. Like, you don't want to shock the system at this point, because I don't think it would be successful, and it might be more
That's
detrimental.
right.
Yeah, but I
because
think,
his parents were thinking like maybe we should take him to the Pakistan, away from this mechanized lifestyle, where there are no screens and stuff, where there is only like the kind of a urban environment, rural
yeah,
environment.
yeah.
Um, but I think like he's gonna go crazy all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly, right. And again, every case is different, so it's hard to say, but yeah, right. I think exactly that. It's too much of a shock, especially if there's a clinical diagnosis there, right? In terms of
That's right.
autism,
Yes.
and things like that. Yeah, we do want to be really careful. I think sometimes having a more
Yeah.
gentle approach. 16 is very young, right? The brain continues to develop into the 20s.
Yeah.
16 is still, on the grand scheme of things, is very young, right? Inshallah, there's lots of time,
Yes.
for that. Yeah.
And
No,
since you are a psychologist, I don't know if you have looked into the psychedelic assisted therapies,
I
or
have not. I don't
like,
have a lot. No, I don't have a lot of knowledge in that area for sure. Yeah, no, it's an
okay,
interesting
okay,
field for sure. But yeah, no, I don't have, personally don't have a lot of knowledge.
okay,
I
got it.
don't practice with psychedelics. Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.